All right, let's come back in halfway through the show with Rod and his guest from the Community Outreach Alliance here in Costa Mesa.
Pondo,
San Clemente, I mean.
Give people your full name because we didn't get there.
Well,
you and I know each other on first name basis.
Yeah, we're both got this ethnicity of the Mediterranean too. So it's like my real official name is Leo, and I'm proud of that because my dad's name was Leo Velicities.
Yeah.
And in Greek, Leo is pronounced Pandolis.
Pandolis.
Yeah. So I'm junior. So the
So
big fat Greek wedding. Yeah. The big fat Greek wedding of Leo, Nicholas Leo, Timothy Leo, Andre Leo is my son. Everybody's got my dad's name in it. So that's a true story about my big fat Greek wedding. But Leo means Pondo in Greek. And so my parents nicknamed me because I was a junior and was hard at the age of 5, Pondo.
As long as I've known you, I did not know that to be the case.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now
it's on my license, driver's license.
Now I'll just learn something new. So Leo is Pondo.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so we're talking to Pondo about COA. And we're talking about how he established COA. And again, let's give people the website if they're joining us now for the first time.
Yeah, the website is www.communityoutreachalliance.com.
And where we left off before the break was that we were talking about how the importance of something like COA and the model, and so that there's even been interest from the Bay Area where people are saying, can you share your successes and so forth, and you've constantly grown. I mean, when did you set up COA? It wasn't that long ago.
It'll be 4 years, 5 years actually, in January.
So
it's 4.5 years.
For those who are familiar with the impact that COA has had in South County and San Clemente specifically, it's only been 4 years, people, and it's amazing. And I know there's a whole bunch of graphics, and I encourage everybody to go to the website and check this out. But just rattle off some of the programs that you guys have.
Well, one of the biggest ones is our open mic night in music, where we have artists come in once a month and sing their hearts out, and we're getting a great turnout of future stars, which actually the outlets had us, they bring our stars there, and that's a venue that we built. We have fishing with Dana Wharf, we have tennis every Wednesday night, we have rock climbing, we have
is that at Hangar 18?
Hangar 18, and every now and then we'll take them out to Joshua Tree. Then we have improv, where we're teaching the drama kids from San Clemente to come in and learn. And actually, shout out to Bob Burns, who's on a couple commercials now.
Yep.
And he leads that for us. We have all these pros and volunteers. We have about 700 volunteers, actually.
How many activities? I know some of them are seasonal, but how many activities do you think have? Do you even know?
I think 20. Yeah,
20
about
activities.
20, yes. 20 activities. And again, we're always looking at the next cutting thing, so that
Yes,
if
you
one
are.
isn't well attended, we'll admit, hey, it wasn't working. We're going to try something else. If you stop and you don't keep recreating for teens, you die.
Somebody tweeted in and wants to know, how does this all get paid for? Do the teens that participate pay something? Does the community pay something? How do you fund this?
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask the
Yeah,
question.
we've never been funded. And actually, when we separated from TLC Ministries, which guided us up until about 6 months ago when we got our own nonprofit, they kind of helped us the whole time. And now we branched off that. We had our first golf tournament last October, which you know about, and then we have private donors, and then we just kicked off a big campaign. On the heels of a shout out to the San Clemente Junior Women's Club, who just in about 30 minutes last week raised $20,000 for COA Thrive Alive, and shout out to our program director Terry Steele. Terry, you're watching, so
yeah, I had reached out to Terry to have her join us, and she said that she unfortunately wasn't able to. But yeah, shout out for Terry, definitely. Those programs don't just get done on their own.
Yeah. I've invested more than enough time to tell you that. We're in a season where the other cities like Mission Viejo and the district, where Saddleback District actually wants us to go up to Trabuco High School, where there's a need for COA clubs. We can't perform there. We can't financially train people enough to go up there, and we can't give them our volunteers, because really our priority is to make San Clemente a historical place where COA was birthed, and the city owned it. Because if every city across America were to own a COA program, and it's not a franchise. If you want to start a COA and on our logo and our brand, we just help manage the part of keeping it pure, keeping it strong, keeping it ethically, because you're dealing with kids. You have to have the ethics of protection. God knows we've seen that go with the Olympic issues and all the other stuff that happens when adults mentor teens.
How do you vet them and do that? Because that's even I coached a little league team years ago with my daughter, and I was surprised we had to do background checks. I was pleased, but I'd forgotten the world we live in and how difficult it is to volunteer, for adults to volunteer.
You're talking about vetting for the people that are involved.
Yeah, the volunteers. I mean, you want to coach Little League, you want to do anything. There is a vetting process you go through, some sort of background check for almost everything because of the fear that we live in, the world we live in. Bad things happen to kids.
That's a great question because I coach at San Clemente High School, girls and guys tennis. I'm the head coach for JV. And for tennis for COA, all 4 coaches are high school vetted Capistrano Unified coaches. And also with our programs, it's the same rules with coaching. You're never alone with them. You're never taking them home alone. You have all the rules that COA kind of makes everybody that helps follow through. And I think when you have teens there's always a COA staff person where we've done the background check. It's just like anything with TLC Ministries.
Right.
Everybody that works with the COA that's in the leadership, we have to follow those rules. So some kids will be left saying, hey, my mom's an hour late. Can you give me a ride? No. She has to come and get you.
Right. So what do you walk me through the basic?
Well, and to your point, Paul, that is the reality of life that we live in. I mean, in order to basically continue to be able to provide that service, you have to be protective of the mechanism and the vehicle that you're basically providing service in. And
so
not
remind
really
everybody the
like
guidelines. You said obviously if you're a volunteer, an adult volunteer in any kind of youth program, from sports to what you're talking about, what do you're never alone with them. So there's never
you're never alone with them. You always have a certified staff member with them, and all of our pros, mentors. I call them pros because most of them have been paid for their sport or their hobby. All of them have been vetted through background checks and also references that they actually don't have a record. They don't have any issues. And again, San Clemente is so small, as you know. And my name's on this because I'm the CEO. I own it. I've probably known every pro that's working for us, including Bob Burns, for at least 10 to 15 years. And again, that doesn't make sure that that's just like the state doesn't make sure they're perfect.
One of the things that I heard, I didn't grow up in San Clemente. I got there in '87. I'd like to think that I had my most impressionable years in San Clemente, but I definitely didn't grow up in San Clemente.
How old roughly were you when you got there?
87 when we moved. I was probably 22.
Okay.
And I went away for about 3 years and maybe spent another 2 or 3 up in West LA, and then came back. And I've been there since 2000 solid. But I will tell you the stories, and it's not one person who shared this, right? And Pondo will probably laugh because he probably has a similar story. Where people would basically be, up to no good, kids would be up to no good on the north side of town, and they lived in the south end of town, and by the time they got home, the parents had already heard about it and were ready for them. It's that kind of town that we live in. And
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
I mean,
we jokingly, lovingly, and somewhat, kind of tongue-in-cheek refer to it as Mayberry, and we like to hold on to as much of that Mayberry as we can, understanding that change is inevitable, and we get to shape the change through things like Pondo's doing. But it is a very unique place, and I'm so happy to be there to experience this through somebody and the efforts of COA and Pondo, because there's not a lot of places that the size is perfect. It's not too big, it's not too small. You can have an impact that is impressive, but it's not so overwhelming that you're trying to basically cover 32 counties. And to your point, I think if somebody else wants to take this and take ownership of it in their community and their heart is in the right place to deliver on this as a service, then that's theirs to do. And your role is to make sure that the authenticity of COAS remains.
Yes.
So having never seen it,
it's a good housekeeping seal of approval.
Where do you do these programs at? Is it at a school? Is it a building? I'm assuming, do you own a building?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because we own, we have 22,000 square feet, 2 buildings. One has a music venue built out in it, which we did about 4 years ago, which holds about 300.
Wow.
And then on the other side, we have our improv rooms, our conference rooms, our classrooms for Thrive Alive. And then what's happening, which is an awesome relationship, is we're really building is the COA clubs on San Clemente, Danny Hills, and San Juan Hills. We use the tennis courts, and we have kids in the COA's club. So everything we're doing is free, and since the community, the public, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we own the schools. We're public. So to let us not use those facilities for free for the students that go to those schools. Our tennis tonight, if you watch that, I can ask them again, what school you're from. I guarantee you there'll be 7 schools from our district students at that event. So it's outdoor, Dana Wharf, Baby Beach for paddleboarding. We have 15 paddleboards. Damian Bronner Surfboard sponsor. Fullerton Bikes, True Racing, we bought the 15 bikes. And these are all high-level, high-end toys for these kids to use.
So what is the procedure for, I mean, is it just through the classes, or are kids able to basically come out and either borrow out or
did they just
sign
show
out
up or,
equipment? What's your process?
The beauty of it is if you look at all the papers, we're listed for the guitar lessons. Just show up, and if you need a guitar, we'll give you one, free. If you want to get a group of 8 to 10 kids and on your own go paddleboarding, tell us you have 10 kids, you want to go paddleboarding at Dana Point Harbor. We'll show up with the trailer, the boards, the life jackets, free. 10 minutes. All we do is have the pro tell about the sport, how to paddle, the safety, the safety issues that you were worried about, Paul.
Right.
And also what it does to your body, how it makes you stronger, how it gets your endorphins moving, how it's a better choice than something that you put in your body. And that's it. 10 minutes. It's not we don't preach. Now churches, if they want to use us, sure they can preach all day long if they want.
Right.
But COA in its entity of itself.
And the idea is what? Just to keep kids involved and to out of trouble.
Involved, but mentoring, because they look at the people that are leading and helping and say, I want to be like that. And they get to reintroduce play to them again. And we know technology is the culprit of non-play.
Remember when we had Brandon Moody here? And we were talking about his experience, and Brandon had basically gotten a camp ship.
Yes,
because his mom couldn't afford to send him to camp.
It was a scholarship to a summer camp.
To a summer camp when he was young.
Which through the Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club, and now he's basically in a position where he's part of the board for the Anaheim.
Because he
Boys
said
and
that
Girls
really
Club,
changed his life.
He
found men and others, individual, I guess men and women, but he found people that he looked up to and admired and began to know and mentored him and really kind of.
We can go around the room right now, and I will tell you there are probably very poignant moments in each individual lives where somebody, whether we understood it at the time or looking back at it, actually had a positive impact about us by just being themselves and by the role and example. And it wasn't necessarily churchy or it wasn't preaching, but it was just by example and by being exposed to that, and you have that as a reference point. And I'm not saying that, for me, for example, I didn't have that role model. I had role models, but it's like I have things that I would basically look at and emulate from my uncle that I wouldn't necessarily pick up from my dad, and vice versa. I think the more you have examples in your life and they are peer, then your absorption is a little less resistive. You're not looking at somebody. He's too old. I'm not listening to what he has to say. This is a person in my generation. My guards are down. I am absorbing and observing what that person has made their life to be, and how maybe my life could benefit, or maybe this is kind of.
But think of kids today. Not only the isolated and
because where did they get that example today? I mean,
not only are they latchkey kids because both parents are working. Not only are they on the computer or the smartphone 24/7, and being subjected to the pressures and temptations and whatnot that.
But not only the pressures and temptations, Paul. I mean, just on a very, very basic level. Okay, if it's not sensationalized, if it's not negative, if it's not like almost to the point of pushing you to the point of stressing, we don't hear about it. I mean, there are people that are out there on the news now that basically make it a point to say, and because we are the news and there's always something positive, here's something positive. I was like, my gosh, we actually have gotten to the point where we have to identify a time segment so we can put something positive in it.
Right, and it's short.
Okay, well, moving on, right?
The point I was going to
meanwhile, everything is breaking news. There's no more news anymore. Everything is friggin' breaking news.
The point I was going to make it was that unlike the way you grew up in particular, and maybe the way I grew up, and I don't know how Pondo grew up, it sounds like you kind of grew up the way he did, there was no extended family around for many of these kids. The parents and grandparents, maybe they're divorced, maybe they all live all over the place. There isn't that sort of family gathering to hold you together and keep you in line. There isn't much of a neighborhood. I can't really tell you who my neighbors are, maybe the guy next door, but they're not looking out. When my daughter was living home, they weren't looking out for her or whatever if she was home alone. I don't sense that neighborhood, that extended family, that church. How many people belong to church or don't belong to church? These groups that sort of gave you opportunities to see how you
So
should act,
so it's a
and watched out for
But
you.
you just set it up perfectly for me, as you usually
I usually do.
Okay, so you set it up perfectly for me because here's my following question.
Yes.
Following on Paul's comment, how do people even find out? How do families or kids at risk even find out that this is available? What is the way that you're getting the message out? Because does everybody know?
Well, it's from like you said, Rod, it's from the negative news. So they start searching, and prevention is everybody's first defense.
Right.
So they find out by, sadly, hey, there was some kids caught vaping at San Clemente High School. Gosh, is there anything out there to keep my kid from vaping?
Right.
Hey, another kid committed suicide. Hey, is there anything out there to keep my kid from even getting to the resource where they can go when they need help? Because I'm not doing it. They're not coming to me.
Right.
And so, sadly, sometimes, like they say, again, I hope it doesn't take deaths to make it. People say, what's COA? We got to find COA because we don't want our kid to die like that kid, and we
Right.
want prevention. But at the same time, there's a stigma, which is Terry's favorite word, that people don't believe that it can ever happen to them. And I think for us, Paul, us three, did your parents ever know about some of the things, did not know about some of the things you did that were bad?
No.
My parents didn't know a lot of things I did that were bad.
I never did
But
anything
they knew
bad.
a lot of stuff that I did bad that I wish
But
they
I
had
hid
never
a,
found
I
out
hid
about.
a
But yeah.
lot of things. So the stigma is
I never did anything bad.
parents look at these kids that
You
are
really,
great.
you're still living in that, on that
you're
street
still living in that
denial.
torment. Parents look at things that their kids and they say, "Oh, they're so good." Oh, do they only? They don't have a
Yeah.
clue. And the stigma is that it'll never happen to my kid.
And I'll tell you something
But
else.
we've been saying that for a long time. I mean, even in common culture, even in movies, that message has been come across that you don't know your kids. Do you really know your kids?
Yeah.
Do you know what your kids are up to? You remember the whole thing about what is it? The latch kids.
Latchkey kids.
Latchkey kids, and what's happening after school and where are they? I mean, this isn't new. The reason why I asked that question, Pando, is unfortunately you're right. Unfortunately, in most cases, it's out of necessity and pain. And pain.
Fair.
Right? And a fear and the desire to minimize pain and somehow deal with your fear to that you basically seek alternatives. The thing that keeps resonating with me, and it's something that I heard from Tony Robbins, over a decade ago. It's probably the only thing that registered with me from his Power series, was that we as human beings have this mechanism in our brain where we do stuff and we're motivated by stuff to minimize pain, but not to maximize pleasure, not to maximize the positive. And yet it is the flip side of the same exact coin. If your mindset just shifted to where you are actually making decisions to improve things, to have increased, almost in a selfish way, increase the positive in your life, versus wait until you are basically now faced with how do I minimize the pain.
Right.
And the
did
fear.
you guys hear that? Because what he just said right now is such a truth. Because if you look at your children today and you want to maximize pleasure and thriving and doing the best in their life, wouldn't you take that insurance of getting them
It's
involved
exactly
in
what it is.
things that will lead
It's
them?
insurance, and it's kids, but it's everybody. And if you learn that skill as a kid, my gosh, I mean, your whole rest of your life, you're making decisions from a different perspective. It's not that it literally is the opposite side of the coin. It's just one decision you make. I'm going to push it until I basically now have pain that I have to overcome or minimize the damage, versus I from the beginning. And we look and hold to higher esteem people that do this, yet we don't apply this in our own lives.
I'll tell you the other thing from my personal life. We only had one daughter, and wonderful girl, but when she became a teenager, she lost her mind, like so many say. Boys got into their temptations, got into their, I don't think she did drugs, but I'm going to, who knows? I know a lot of people in her school did. These affluents, we went to Tesoro High School down in South County.
You didn't tell her about your hash bash days from Michigan, did you?
No. So my point is this, and I said it to her once, and it was I think it's my greatest fear as a parent of those, especially in those years. We all experiment. We all try things. That's what those years are about. We all rebel. We all got to find ourselves, right? Which means you're going to try some dumb things and say, wow. But the problem is when you're 8 and you make a mistake, you break your leg. You fall to the tree. When you're 18, you smash your car and kill yourself. You commit suicide. You take drugs and do an overdose. I mean, the consequences.
Yeah, but those ages are getting lower and lower, and
Used to
earlier
just-
and earlier.
Three kids from a school in Capital Unified in Ladera area, 3 in 90 days, 13 took their lives.
Wow.
Just last year, 6
So even in that aspect, Paul, we have a skewed reality of what today is happening.
Yes, right. So, again, I think the pressures that are on them have never been greater. The isolation, they're trying to figure out more and more alone or in the wrong ways, not with mentors, not with family, not with communities, not with groups. And the consequences, if they do it wrong, are unimaginable.
Well, and look, we say this on the show. We've said it many times over the course of the last 3 years when it comes to volunteering, right? Mm-hmm. We've said, volunteering, if you have not had a taste of what it means for you selfishly to get rewarded for volunteering, you don't know what you're missing. We've said that. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. We, volunteering, say that we're older, we're picking up on that, as something that feeds a part of our soul that doesn't get rewarded in mm-hmm. monetary ways. That's something that we find out. I found that out later in my life, right? If a child is able to do this earlier for themselves, but also for others, I think that's an amazing, amazing gift that you're giving the community, Pondo, and everybody that's working with you. I know it's not just you that obviously is doing this and pulling this off. Yeah, let's talk about this fundraiser that you got going on right now.
Well, yeah, it's really a basic premise of from a lot of people giving a little can fund the whole program, because we have 60,000 people in San Clemente now.
65 almost.
Yeah, 65. Yeah. So we started a campaign called $10 from 10,000 people, which if they actually gave that would be more than enough to fund us. But actually, some people just say, "I love it, it's great," but they don't even focus of saying.
And for those people who don't do math, it's $100,000.
Yeah, a month.
Yeah.
So it's
And somebody else tweeted and wants to know, just roughly, you don't have to give, although maybe you're 501c3 and this is all publicly out there somewhere, but roughly what's it cost to fund this program in this county?
The Thrive Alive program?
That's perfect timing because we're talking about the fundraiser.
Well, the Junior Women's Club just funded a whole series, and so it cost about $10,000 to do a 6-week session, and that includes the LCSW, which is paid, and some of the professionals are at high level. We pay them. The classrooms, the marketing, the management, the recreation director that takes them to all those sports.
Insurance, I'm sure.
So the Junior Women just funded 2 sessions.
Yeah, all those things. So it's really that one program alone isn't. I think our total budget, our dream budget, is, and it might sound like a lot, but you look at the buildings, the insurance, everything, just to open up those
South
buildings.
County, Orange County,
pricing,
real
$5,000
estate.
to turn the crease, $5,000 a month.
Walk in in the morning and just turn on the light without turning on the lights.
Yes,
probably.
turn on the lights.
Wow.
And people don't realize that. They just think that
isn't the city giving you that?
Well, the city gave us a large grant of $2,000, which we appreciate, and kudos to the city for allowing the jazz band to come back and to play at the beach. My son played there. He was at USC.
Oh man, that's fresh news. That's
fresh
last
news.
48 hours.
Yeah. So Tim Brown.
Hey,
you
got somebody calling in that wants to been patiently sitting here. She's on the phone with you.
Okay, who's on the phone?
Join us and identify yourself.
Hi, this is Terry Steele, the Executive Director of Programs of COA, and I've been listening in, and I'm just so excited, Rod, that you invited Pondo.
It's my pleasure, Terry. I'm glad you got a chance to
How
call.
did you get involved, and why and when?
Oh, I got involved by attending that town hall meeting 4 years ago that Pondo had held. I knew him through Relay for Life as the Talega Life Church most spirited, involved in kids church. And so when he called the meeting, and I had been a scout leader for 16 years, and I had been seeing a lot of the young men who seemed so hopeful when they were young, turning to drugs, alcohol, and then one had committed suicide.
Oh my God, yeah.
I felt like I knew a lot of the kids that he was talking about, and I then asked him, how could I get involved? And it started with just, social media, but then I started bringing in, people that I know from this community, having lived here for 28 years. And I realized San Clemente has a special niche that people are more than willing to help up. They just help. They just need to know what to do. And I figured everybody has a talent. Let's start there. And so Pondo, being a great man to work for, allowed us to come in and offer some suggestions and ideas. And that alliance that he talks about is just everybody being willing to come in and offer the talent that they already have to help these kids.
You've both now mentioned teen suicides, and I know it's a topic that's kind of taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it or think about it, but I know is it increasing? Is
we
it worse
we
today?
talk about it down south.
Is it worse
deal with
today?
it.
Is it worse today, or is it just more publicly aware today? And if so, why? Why is it social media? What's the pressures that are leading kids to kill themselves?
I think it's an increase. I've worked with kids my entire career. Even when I was 15, 16 years old, I was advised, working with ROP. I was interns into my career. And over the past few years, yes, I do believe there's an increase. And I never could say I knew these kids. And now I'm hearing, they're best friends of my son.
Yeah.
And these are kids you would have never guessed would have ever had an issue. And that's why I'm always saying it could be anybody's child, because depression and mental health.
Yeah, you can't get, Terry, it's true too, because we see it. You can't mix up an overdose where most overdoses are accidental. They're not saying I'm going to kill myself with heroin or an opiate, but suicide is the
But you actually have genuine suicide.
Yeah, genuine suicide.
Yeah. And because they say social media is putting additional pressures on these kids, and it never goes away. It's bullying times 10, and shaming and whatnot. And I think drugs, certainly have contributed. I lived in that era, and I came out of high school in the 70s. That was kind of the first, maybe the late 60s through the early 70s when I came through, was when we first started seeing drug overdoses. I had friends of mine and kids I knew in high school that died of drug overdoses, and it was shocking to everybody. And that wasn't something you heard of or saw much of in 1964, but in 1974 you did.
But you don't. Where do you pick up coping skills? Where do you actually pick up coping skills of dealing with things?
Thrive Alive.
Thrive Alive.
Thrive
right?
Alive.
And for those that are out there, and I understand the motivation behind it, it's not really necessarily a thought process, more of a reaction. But for everybody that's out there that basically says, the school district is not doing enough. So-and-so is not doing enough. You're either a person pointing out and saying something isn't happening, or you're a person rolling up your sleeves and participating. And you're finding a vehicle somewhere, a venue somewhere, and you're putting energy forward and doing it. And Pondo and COA is one thing, and Terry is the same. That's one entity. We've had Bill Bracken basically feeding the homeless out of a food truck in Santa Ana. We've got Bruno Serrato, basically. Bruno, congratulations on the White House being open again in Anaheim this week. But and I look forward to seeing you and Ashley next week for her fundraiser there. But I mean, these are people that have taken it upon themselves to in whatever small way, starting off, and it's become bigger and bigger. And people have gravitated to help them.
Have you ever heard the starfish story? Somebody told me this a couple of years ago. I thought it was a great story. You know the starfish story?
Yeah.
Tell
people the starfish.
The starfish story is you pick any beach. You're at some resort. You're at a beach, and we're walking down the beach, and there's a bunch of starfish that have washed up onto the beach, and they're all dying. And so the person in the story the tourist starts picking them up and throwing them back into the ocean. And the locals, whoever, come up and says, sir, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. There's millions of them. You can't save them all. And the guy says, but I can save this one. And he throws it back into the ocean.
Right.
That's a great story.
It's actually perfect. We're an ocean community. You guys need to put that one out, I think.
And I think Terry and I agree with this, and we struggle with this a lot, is that people don't realize our community, St. Clemente, all of you, we're anti-homeless, anti-drugs, anti-needles, anti-trash on the beach trail, We're not trying to enable the next generation to become that. That's a COA. That's the bottom line COA.
But let me add to that, okay? Because the word anti can also easily be misconstrued as being not in my backyard. Not
it's okay if they shoot up down the street.
No, you're right, exactly, because I'm just going to put them on a bus and move them over, right?
Yeah.
No, you again, I will repeat, the fact that you are averse to something or that you want things to be better, okay, versus just kind of bury it and brush it underneath the carpet. You got to roll up your sleeve and be part of the positive solution. You cannot be sitting there and talking about being anti-toll road but not really doing anything about it. You can't be talking about not being happy with the fact that there are homeless in San Clemente without knowing that at least those who may be wanting to transition housing and basically get off the street, you have maybe given or put effort to an organization like FAM, like somebody that basically is putting energy towards taking those. Now, it's not going to be every starfish, but it's going to be maybe 10%. And if that is what all happens.
Can I add?
Sure, Terry, go ahead.
one of the big reasons I wanted to help out with COA is my cousin was like a sister, and she was homeless. I understand homeless.
Yeah.
And we were from a very affluent family, and it was because of addiction. And so the idea of prevention, as Pondo mentioned earlier, is key. That there are homeless people, and many of them have a different reason that brought them to that, and I love that programs are available to help them, because that's how we help them.
Right.
COA's concentration is on the prevention part of it, and also to teach those children to love their neighbor no matter where it is that they're headed, and donate to the community and give back. So we're helping build up leaders who understand that sometimes people become broken through whatever happened in their lives.
You know, Terry, I saw something on a flyer that I have actually since circulated, and I think it's made it even up to City Council in San Clemente, not through me, but through other people that have seen it. And this is where the power of social media can be if you harness it for positive. I saw a flyer that was put out by City of Dana Point. I'm going to give a shout out to Dana Point, because I thought in the midst of all this kind of chaos and backlash and circle the wagons when it comes to the homeless issue, which is a part of reality in life and has been since day one. You want to look at history? Go look at the history of the United States and tell me whenever in the history of the United States, in any community in the United States, was there not an issue of homelessness? Because if you're pretending that that's the case, your head is buried up to your, I don't know, sand? We'll say sand, okay? All right. The term on the flyer said responsible compassion. You can't just be averse and not have compassion be part of that solution. It has to be. And you can't lose your humanity in the course of basically being against something. You get to do that if you want to, but that's not going to lead to anything improving.
And you got to take responsibility. That's what.
Yeah, no rights without responsibility.
I remember when I was a kid and Reagan was president. I was a kid. I was in college and Reagan was president, and I applaud the idea. Just say no to drugs. Let's not. But that's just so simple. Oh, gee, we're just going to say no to homelessness. I'm anti-homeless. Okay, there. I've done my part. I'm anti-suicide. There. I'm not for it. But what did you do to stop it?
Well,
what did you do to fix it?
In that particular case, and I've been vocal about this, so this is nothing new, right? In that particular case, unfortunately, it's not limited to that particular case. We've had an abdication of leadership. We literally have had an abdication of leadership. You cannot just basically sit in that seat and take all the benefits of being in that seat and avoid everything you can to lead.
You can't just sign a resolution that says we're anti-homeless and that's it?
You can't get, I mean, it is election season, right? You cannot get voted in, and the first thing you do day one that you're voted in is start thinking about how you hold on to the seat and how you get reelected. You're there to do a job, and it may mean that your neck is on the line, and some people are not going to be happy with you, but that is what you signed up to do.
And too often, again, I think not just government, but citizens and everything, we sign a petition. I'm against that. Good. I've done my part.
Yeah, now it's somebody else's. I've signed my name. Now somebody else gets to basically.
It's more than that. I mean, you guys are putting it on the line. Is it the only program? No, there's probably millions of ideas, but you're doing something.
Well, that's the two-part thing about youth. Are youth anti any negative in life? Who wouldn't be anti?
Yeah, right.
But the other
it's actually kind of the cool state to be in, right?
Yeah.
Who's pro drugs? Who's pro homeless?
The other part of our ministries, which is the TLC ministry side of it, is we do feed the poor. We are an agency of Second Harvest. We are next to FAM. 5 years before FAM even moved there. God bless you, Mary.
Yeah, you guys were there first.
We were there first. I went to FAM down the street to get food 10 years ago. I've been feeding the poor and the homeless in San Clemente now for 12 years. I'm pro feeding the homeless and pro, but enabling is a whole source, another topic with me.
Right.
No, I have that in my family.
But
we don't enable.
When you say the word enabling, you're also showing your counselor side.
Yes.
Because
tough love.
You understand that.
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Yeah. So Terry, I have a question for you. You still with us?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm with you.
You're with us. Okay. Yes, I'm glad you're with us. So So tell me 2 of your favorite things about your experience with COA. And then I want you to tell me something funny about Pondo that nobody knows.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Can I start with what's the funniest thing about
Yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Here it comes.
I'm kidding you. We have a great relationship. We are very similar, but we argue.
By the way, he got really red, Terry. He's really red right now.
Yeah, there's times where we just take breaks. But the other day he was exhausted because a lot of people don't realize, yes,
Mm-hmm.
he is a pastor. It's not just by name. But imagine being
by heart, too.
bedside
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Bedside, last rites, burying people. And, you know, that's, to me, I cry every time. I had to disconnect from that because there was so much death.
Yeah.
And for him, he's just part of that in the lives of the people who call upon him. And I know that about him, but the other day we did not have a guitar instructor. And he was exhausted. I was exhausted because we had so many weekend events. And we're both getting a little bit older. And I remember going in there and I looked at him and I go, so could you take guitar lessons tonight? And he turned around and looked at me and he goes, can you go fishing? And the joke behind that is I get terribly seasick.
That's funny. That's
yeah,
funny.
And so, yeah, it worked out. But, no, that's how we work together. And as far as my favorite program is, I love improv. I have always been very involved in the San Clemente theater arts, and my son's in the film industry. I love anything that's funny and light. And I think oftentimes there's a lot of kids that, you know, come through and they have whatever's going on in their life that weighs heavy. We have a lot of military kids.
Yeah.
And when they come to improv and they're all goofing around and becoming really good friends, that I love.
You know what I love about improv, and we've had people in here talk about it a great deal in terms of even using it for business skills. You're using it for just as an exercise for kids. I studied improv years and years ago with the groundlings and whatnot, and I always remind people the basis of improv is different than the basis of life. In life, you go, yes, but. Well, yes, I should do that, but I don't have the time, I don't have the money, whatever. In improv, it all starts with the assumption, yes, and. Whatever I say, how stupid it is, you have to take it and do something with it. You're a duck on the moon, okay? Yes, and. So it opens people's minds and gets them out of that blame game, negative, can't do idea that we're so ingrained in.
So I you know, this is how connected San Clemente is.
Yes.
We're on the air, and I'm getting messages and questions and stuff like that from Elizabeth Corder. And she just wrote this and asked me to read it, so I will do so, Elizabeth. She says, I have known Pondo and Terry for a long time. I've lived in San Clemente for almost 35 years. My son is 23 years old. After I had to watch him agonize over several funerals of young people he grew up with right here in San Clemente who committed suicide, I realized I had to do something.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed these kids were hurting to that extent. Please get involved. Prevention is key. This could happen to any of us. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing that.
Any other stories you guys want to share? You don't have to give us a name, but somebody that really you touched. There must be kids that come through the program and you go, wow, I'll never forget that one.
Oh, there's so many. That's why the other program I would say I love is the internship program. Because oftentimes they've gone to college or they're in college and they just need to build their resume. So
this is work internship?
These are paid internships, but they're paid at minimum wage with the goal of building up their resume so they can get a job. So Amanda Davis, if you're out there, she might be at work, but we ran into her at the chowder cook-off walking across the pier.
Which we won.
Yeah,
congratulations. Big deal.
Yeah, thank you. We were so excited, and Pondo and I both knew Derek Gerber, who was her friend. Anyways, Amanda came for a short period of time, and she built up enough confidence, is what she would say it is, that she then applied for a job 6 months later with the University of Irvine, and she's now one of their activities directors.
There you go.
And she, with that, invites a lot of the COA kids over the summers to participate on full scholarships for their athletic programs.
And Jacob Greenberg, who was at
Jacob Greenberg.
He's at the new hotel in Newport. Is it Marriott? What's it, Marriott?
The Lido house.
He's like taking that place over. Matter of fact, he's supposed to go to college. He's going to be 20 to UNLV to learn that business, but he's so good in going in that. He learned so much of that skill, which he already was a natural at COA.
That's
and
awesome.
He's sought after by so many people. So there's a ton of stories like that. Just
and Tamra, who created the video, she's in video school. I mean, up at Saddleback Film School. And we give kids an opportunity to use what they're trying to achieve. And then people in the community are so gracious and generous. They donate their time. to teach them.
5 minutes left. What would you got a mic? Tell the world. What do you need? Why should they get care and get involved? And how
can they?
And how can they? Yes. What do you need? How can people get involved?
Terry, you go first. We'll end
Money.
with Pondo.
Money. Yes.
Money.
Starts and ends with
You
money.
know
Hey,
what?
I know.
And that's a hard one to just come right out and say, and have
She
not
said money.
it. But I said it because
you need money. You need the money. You need the money. You need money.
We have this campaign. $10 a month from 10,000 people would pay for this program.
Wow.
If we could do that every year, $10 a month, that's 33 cents a day.
By the way, that's
And we
just to give
save a
people
lot of lives.
just give people a perspective. That's like, on the cheap end, 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks.
33 cents a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you really want to participate, and if you can do it in person and give up yourself and your time, that's awesome, because I think you will get rewarded in a way if you haven't done that before.
But I don't have to do that because I signed a petition last month. I'm against teen suicide,
So you're done.
I'm done. I took a stand.
Sign a petition.
Oh,
That's
but
going to solve
now
it.
But now I know you like improv.
Yes, I do like improv. I love improv.
So if you and he likes a mic in his face,
Oh,
Terry, too. So stick a mic in his hand, and he's going to give you money for that.
That's right.
But
Okay.
All right, so you need money. What do you say, Pondo? Other than money, what do you need?
I know that our Facebook followers, you haven't probably hearing the questions from Terry, but
yeah, we'll share the link for the on the air, which will be probably a little chopped out. Will be partly only audio and then partly audio video. But the point is, listen to it, because you'll hear Terry's questions that she asked as well.
yeah. And what I need basically is just I really need San Clemente, the community, to pull together in all things, because that's how we're going to make our town the best. And I think with the political platform we've seen and how much polarization it is, I think when good people are trying to do the best they can at any given day, and then they just get attacked and piled on, it doesn't help the solution part of what we're trying to do. And I think that's what made San Clemente become what it is those of us, my mom, 40 years before I was born, or less than that, but people that wanted to share community at the beginning of San Clemente, loving the neighbor, loving the down and out, loving the pride of a Sam Darnold being drafted number 3 in the NFL.
Yeah,
all
way
those
to go, Sam.
celebratory things that we can celebrate.
So do you have to commune with people? Does community imply
yes,
in
you
communing?
actually have to say hello to your neighbor.
in
You actually have to
communion?
engage in community. You
Door opener.
can't just maybe wave occasionally if you accidentally catch their eye.
I signed a petition that we should be friendlier to everybody.
Yeah, but there's a reason.
Friendlier.
There's you ask him where he lives there.
No, I'm not.
A gated community.
A gated community, exactly.
I know, but this is something where we all see each other, and I heard you guys talking about it, the social media piece. Can we please be good role models for our children? Youth are bullying each other to the brink of death, and their role models are their parents. And if we're going to show the children to be kind, we need to really focus on social media. This is the first generation of parents raising children with social media, and we need to teach them how it's done, how it's a great tool used properly, but it's not where you bully others.
Yeah, Terry, I think we have become a society that has basically miscalculated on what life is, and that we have forgotten that it's a social contract, that I am my brother and sister's keeper, and we have become this thing where it's like a gladiator sport, and in some cases you're not even the gladiator in the arena, you're actually the spectator booing from the stands, and that has had a very adverse reaction. And we had it in San Clemente. We had that divisiveness in San Clemente. We had I want to send a thank you card to the TCA because they basically have unified San Clemente around something common. But we can't only just be against something. We got to be for something.
Yes.
I mean, I will tell you, and we're gonna have one of these kids on the show in 2 weeks. The example that you guys are doing, and the impact, whether directly or indirectly, the engagement in the community, the encouragement of people basically to reach out, to be of service, to be involved. We have 2 high school kids running for city council in San Clemente this year.
Wow.
Right? And not only that, and I will share this, I will say only this because it's their story to tell. Their efforts and their mentorship or leadership or vision extends beyond San Clemente. and it is to their peers. And so if we are when I saw that, I said, you know what, all the gloom and doom about the future and our kids and all this stuff just went right out the window, because there's an example of where people who have an example around them, who live in a community that actually cares enough to show what it means to be a village, to take a village, right, and to do what it takes, pay money, volunteer service, be there, look out for your kids, your neighbors' kids, whatever, when you can. Look out and monitor and, do social media in a positive manner, use it as a tool. There's an example. We got 2 kids from high school in San Clemente running for city council this year.
I'm going to go on my social media feed and beat up everybody who isn't nice.
But wait, didn't you sign a petition about that?
Yeah, then I'm going to sign a petition about it. I'm going to yell at them all to be nice, and then I'm going to sign a petition about it saying...
Terry, thank you so much for coming alongside.
Yes, really.
Appreciate it. And I know 4 years, you and I, people don't know this, we don't like to share it, but we haven't been paid, ever.
What?
It's radical, and people are trying to stop us from that, and our board is. We have a great board, the best working board I think I've ever had on both sides. TLC has a great board, and so does COA. And so without the volunteers, I'm telling you, we're tired, but until the cause is met, we're not going to stop, ever.
Yeah,
Good
it's
for
worth
you.
it.
Well, but you know what? You should be compensated because you sacrifice time, resources, and the benefits and the rewards and the return on that investment that you have put in, as we talk about a proof of concept, is there. And if it means that you can do more, you can do better, you are less stressed basically being of service for others, then you should be compensated. And it's just only fair. I mean...
Well, I'm sure you want it to be sustainable, too. So one day
Yeah,
you're going to leave the scene, and you don't want this to leave with you. So you want to have a model.
That's what the board said. They said, Pondo, if you die, we can't tell the next CEO you get paid nothing because Pondo got paid nothing.
Yeah, exactly
So
right. You've got to create a sustainable
Right.
model that has infrastructure and costs and buildings and all the things.
Because that's
built
really the
into it,
true
yeah.
legacy, right? And a lot of nonprofits fail in that capacity.
Right.
I mean, if, we've been both involved in enough of them. If you don't have that legacy programming, if you don't have that transition plan, if you don't have the system in there where it can survive and the mission can survive and thrive
Right.
in spite of the people who are there today,
Right.
then you don't really
Well,
have...
and that's a really good point. And so what else do we need? We could use some strong board members. Our board is amazing.
Mhm.
But if there's anybody who wants to join our board and help us with this and be involved in some of the activities that we have, by all means, corporate sponsors would be great. Businesses who could come alongside us and help us, like Stego.
Mhm.
So if we can continue on that path, because I love this model of COA.
Mhm.
And I wanted to mention that we're working with the Boys and Girls Club to
Mhm.
offer Thrive Alive theirs for the kids that don't have a ride to us.
Right.
So we're trying in the community to reach out to all the other agencies and the businesses and ask them to come help us so we can be sustainable. We put a lot of work in developing this,
Right.
and of course we want it to last.
Right.
I have 3 children, 3 men, young men who grew up here, who this will be their home
Yeah.
if they choose.
If we
they can afford it.
and you know what, Terry, if we do what is needed to keep them there, because we also face economic realities. And when you're basically saying you're giving internships to these kids and somebody is basically now pursuing that internship result into like a career in film or a career in education or whatever, because they basically got engaged with COA at an early enough age and they have it kindled a passion and a fire in them to pursue this, it increases their chances to be able to remain in the town they were born and raised in, to give back to that community. Because if we don't invest in that, I'm telling you, San Clemente, right here, you're hearing it from me. Some of you who have known me have never heard it already. If we don't do that, we are not going to have the people who were born and raised and are very much wanting to give to their community remain and be able to afford to be around, to be the next generation of leadership in this town.
Well, on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up. Tell everybody how they can reach you and find you.
Well, you can find us on the website's the best way, www.communityoutreachalliance.com. Facebook, go to COA Community Outreach. We have at least 6 sites on all of our activities. Our weekly activities for you parents out there, go to our weekly schedule events. And also on that website, you can donate. It says donate to the 10 for 10,000. And So many people have donated already, but it's a far cry from 1,000, let alone 10. We're going to get there, though, so thank you.
Terry, what are some of the programs going on
Any
this week?
petitions I can sign?
No, you should stay behind your gated community.
Okay.
Yeah, well, definitely come to Improv Monday night. We could use another adult volunteer. But what we have going
Nice,
on
Terry.
tonight is, I know Pondo mentioned tennis.
Yeah,
but
that's
we
tonight,
have
right?
Yeah, and we have the Bike Club.
Yes.
They bring their bikes, or we have our bikes, and they meet with Mike Russell, our bike pro, and our recreation leader, Sean. That's at 5 o'clock. They start at Capo Beach, and they just head off. And then we also have open mic, as Pondo mentioned, the first Friday of every month. And
so I have a question, Terry. And maybe it's for both of you, is there an age?
Yeah, what's the bracket?
12. It's 12 to 26.
Oh, wow.
That's a big range.
They're not all included in every activity. People who want to know where the breakdown is for the activities, if they subscribe online and search your email, you will get every 2 weeks a list of activities that you could participate in that we offer, as well as those that are friendly in those age groups that are offered in the community. So we try to link the residents ages 12 to 26 based on what's interesting and fun to them. We also have the gaming club. That's where you get the higher age limit. And the gaming club is run by, my son works for Disney. He's a game programmer, and he brings friends from Riot Games, Blizzard,
Wow.
I mean, all
Big
these
stuff, yeah.
agencies, and these are young adults who are residents of San Clemente who have decided to stay and give back.
Yeah, the running club on Thursday mornings. We have a Thrive Alive class this Saturday. It's booked, though, so you'll have to, parents, if you want to sign up for that, it's free. Sign up, go on our calendar, and get on the next class, because it's already halfway full already.
Well, if they want to come get to know us this Saturday, we're at the High Five for Fitness event
Noble
at
Path
the
Foundation.
Hermosa with the Noble Path Foundation. We'll have a booth there. You can try the drunk goggles and see what that feels like.
Drunk goggles.
So as you can
Paul,
tell,
give him back.
I've tried those.
Those have his name etched.
I've tried those too many times, my friends.
So for anybody who's been listening to the show, there's obviously a lot. To put it mildly, that Koa and Terry and Pondo and all the volunteers and all the mentors that are involved with this great program offer week in, week out. Go find out about it, find out how you can support it, find out how you can sign up for it. If you are interested, I guarantee you're going to find something that will work for you, time-wise, activity type-wise. And I want to thank both of you guys for being here and for everything that you guys do. It's a great town for us all because of your efforts.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, too. And,
It's my pleasure.
and again, I know we agree on more than a few things, but stop the toll road.
Stop the toll road.
Yeah,
No toll
Let's
road.
just
Stop
throw
it.
that in there.
I do want to give a shout out to Rocky Chavez and to be fair to the other candidates that are also running. We have a unified front in South County against the running of a toll road through San Clemente, and anybody who's spent a split second in San Clemente will understand why, not to bore everybody with this again. But I do want to thank everybody, and I do want to thank the city for its leadership on this, and Rocky Chavez for carrying a bill that is going to go through Sacramento again to try to stop the toll road. As an agency, it has outlasted its purpose, and it has become almost abusive. But with that, we say no to abuse, regardless whether it's with kids or with communities at large. So thank you both for being here, guys, and we will see everybody next week, Wednesday, on the Raad Life.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the Raad Life radio show with your host and age explorer, Rad Gantos, brought to you on the one and only octalkradio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest.